Captain America Brave New World attempts to revive the spirit of the Winter Soldier, but lacks the fundamental aspect that made that movie so entertaining, the mystery. There's never any question as to who is doing what or why, and if there are any questions, they're answered in the first 30 minutes of the film. Add to that lackluster effects and characters that have little or no importance to the story, and you enter a brave new world of subpar superhero action set pieces. Captain America 4 attempts to set the stage for the new Avengers in the next phase of the MCU, but unfortunately the studio and crew leave the Star-Spangled Man without a plan and flapping his wings in the breeze. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought for the first solo outing of Sam Wilson's Captain America. I'm Brennan Sem for the New Wave Nerds. Subscribe down below for more nerd content and commentary. Now let's roll the intro. Directed by Julius Onah, Captain America Brave New World finds Sam Wilson in the middle of an international incident after meeting with the newly elected president Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. Captain America must discover the reason behind the nefarious plot before the true mastermind has the entire world seeing red. So, non-spoiler reviews, this movie's alright, it's not amazing, it's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. I personally like this much more than Ant-Man Quantumania or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but interestingly enough, I did not like it as much as, say, Black Widow. Now, longtime listeners of the show will know that I was very excited for this movie. I had incredibly high hopes, and I wanted this to be everything that I had expected it to be, but unfortunately, it just fell short. Due to a poorly written script, I don't know if the story came across as well as it did. Like I mentioned in the intro, we're lacking all of the mystery. Everything gets explained fairly early on, and the biggest twists are all revealed in the trailer. I think the movie-going experience is severely hampered by the trailer, and I think that's really, really unfortunate. In recent months, I've been advocating very loudly against the way that many of these shows and movies have been marketed, and this is such a perfect epitome of that. It was not all that I had hoped it to be. All of the best scenes were in the trailer, and unfortunately, it did not live up to my expectations. But that being said, I will say I thought it was a fun movie. The action was decent. I enjoyed a lot of the acting. I think Anthony Mackie is a bright spot in this movie. I think he's doing the best with what he has. Harrison Ford equally is good. However, I do have some complaints about Harrison Ford's Thaddeus Ross. It feels like a very distinct character from the Ross that we've seen in the MCU prior to this. Now, obviously, the actor is incredibly different, but it feels like the character is written incredibly differently, and that is not something that I necessarily enjoy all that much. But that being said, excluding the fact that William Hurt did a great job and the little that we got to see him before this, Harrison Ford did do a good job with the character. I still think, however, the writing is very below average, and unfortunately, it didn't do Anthony Mackie or Harrison Ford any favors. Now, after this, we're going to be getting into the spoiler section, so if you have not seen the movie yet, it is currently available in the theaters. I do encourage you to go watch it. If nothing else, it's fun to see a guy flying around, slicing cars in half with his wings. I think it is maybe worth, the $12 for a ticket. I don't know. I don't necessarily think I'm going to be paying to go see it a second time in the theaters, but I will certainly watch it a second time when it's available on streaming services. Now, let's get into the spoiler section. So, first off, I do want to say here, a good aspect of the movie is Anthony Mackie. I do think he does a good job, and I like seeing Anthony Mackie as Captain America. I do think a lot of the story around Anthony Mackie and a lot of his plot points are just rehashing of things that we've seen before. It's very, very reminiscent of his personal growth in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think that is not very good. Not only is it just a rehashing of the same plot points, I think it's actually done better in the TV show than it is in the movie, which is unfortunate. You would expect if they're going to rehash the exact same plot points that it would be better done in the movie, but that's just simply not the case. In this, we see Sam Wilson again question whether or not he is worthy of the shield. We see him question whether or not he should take the super soldier serum. And that's just uninteresting at this point. Again, we've seen it before. We've seen it done better. Try something different. Again, that's not a knock on Anthony Mackie or on Sam Wilson. That's just on, well, I guess it would be a knock on Sam Wilson because the writing is poorly done and the character is written. It's very, very unfortunate. Again, as I said before, I had really, really high hopes for this series, and it just did not come out the way that I wanted it to. And I don't think it really came out the way anybody wanted it to. There are obviously some anonymous reporting, so take it with a grain of salt. If nobody puts their name behind it, I'm instantly skeptical. But allegedly, within the crew, there were always assumptions that the movie would not be that great, and there were always doubts. And that's never good to hear. I don't think it helps the fact that they had to do a lot of reshoots. They added stuff, they took stuff out. Now, reshoots are standard operating procedure, but according to reports, it fundamentally changed the movie, and I don't think that that necessarily helped as well. But Anthony Mackie is good in this. I am interested to see what his Captain America does moving forward. Hopefully with some better writers, we can get a really interesting story arc, the establishment of a new Avengers group and such, and I think that that would be interesting. I like Sam Wilson as a character. This movie definitely didn't help my perception of him, but based off of the comics, off of the Winter Soldier movie, and off of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, I think Sam Wilson is a strong character who is capable of leading his own movie. He just needs a good crew behind him. Now, I mentioned Winter Soldier in the opening. I mentioned that they try to revive the spirit of the Winter Soldier, and they fail miserably. Again, as I say, there is no mystery to this story. We learn incredibly early on that the leader is the mastermind behind this. We learn that he is the one controlling things. And we even learn the majority of his motivations fairly early in the film. It is not satisfying at all. And this is a situation where, again, I think the marketing, I think viewing the trailer severely hurts your movie-going experience. The biggest part of the trailer is obviously the inclusion of the Red Hulk. That is the final scene in the trailer. It is this big moment that gets everybody excited. Even outside of the trailer, all of the promotional material has Captain America facing off against the Red Hulk, whether it's the relatively minimalist poster of the Captain America shield on a black background with the hand reaching forward, or it's the more overt poster where Sam Wilson is holding his shield up and the Red Hulk is punching it. That, I think, should be the mystery here. It is what is going on with Thaddeus Ross. And I think, again, showing this in the trailer and then having it supposed to be this big reveal in the final 10 minutes of the movie is incredibly unsatisfying. And again, if you want Red Hulk to be the draw, if you want to use that in the marketing, then in the movie, there needs to be a mystery about how the Red Hulk came to be, who the Red Hulk is, or what's going on. The way that I think to make this better, instead of having Cap fight the Red Hulk in the final 10 minutes of the movie, maybe have him fight Red Hulk at the midpoint. Halfway through, Thaddeus Ross rages out. He goes red. And then the second half of the movie is about discovering how he turned into the Red Hulk or why he turned into the Red Hulk. What is the process that made it possible for him to do this? And then the mystery is them uncovering this plot by Samuel Stearns. But again, we see the leader, Samuel Stearns, played by Tim Blake Nelson. We see that incredibly early in the film. We see that in the promotional material. And we see the Red Hulk in the promotional material, in the trailer. And it's just incredibly, incredibly unsatisfying. Now, apart from the actual story structure, apart from that missing aspect, which again, I will say is fundamental to why that movie works and why that movie is good, why many people, sometimes myself included, say that that is the best Captain America movie, and some argue that it may even be the best movie in the MCU, you have to include that, and that sucks. But on other comparisons to the Winter Soldier, outside of the fact that it is supposed to be this grounded aspect grounded conspiracy thriller, in many ways, this movie follows Winter Soldier beat for beat, and not in a good way, not in a way that makes the movie interesting, not in a way where the story beats are done in a more satisfying way. No, it is just, in many cases, feels like a simple rehashing of the Winter Soldier. I mean, we take the opening scene, for example. In Winter Soldier, it is this awesome scene of Captain America jumping out of a plane, and he's working with S.H.I.E.L.D. to take care of some kidnappers and terrorists who have held a S.H.I.E.L.D. vessel hostage. It's a terrorist plot that Captain America comes in to save. We see him be all awesome, and then Captain America has this solo one-on-one fight with George Batroc, with this, villain, and the scene itself seemingly is unrelated to what the rest of the movie is going to be about, but then we get the Catalyst event and it ties in. In Brave New World, it is essentially the exact same scene. The only difference is they're in a house instead of on a boat. Not satisfying. All right, so we see Captain America Sam Wilson attempting to stop this terrorist plot of people, bad men who have taken people hostages. He comes in and what am I trying to say here? And he even fights a more powerful guy. He, for some reason, doesn't use a shield, doesn't use any of the abilities of his suit. He just engages in hand-to-hand combat with a guy and ultimately beats him. And then this story, which is theoretically not related to the main story of the movie, actually ties in through the character of Sidewinder. It is the exact same story beat. It is the exact same opening scene, but with Sam Wilson instead of Steve Rogers. And to me, that is just poor writing. I get that you want to have this scene that shows Sam Wilson being the superhero, being the guy who comes in and saves everyone, and being this force of good and hope or whatever before things start to go downhill. But you have to find a different way. You have to find a different scene. You have to make it a little more unique. And maybe I would feel differently about this if a big part of the marketing push for this movie, from the director, from the writers, from Anthony Mackie himself, hadn't been that this is an attempt, or rather the main inspiration for this movie was Winter Soldier. If you say that, and then you take the movie beat for beat, it's just poor writing. It's poor writing, and it really sucks, because I love Winter Soldier. Like I said, it is sometimes my favorite Captain America movie. Every once in a while, I go back and forth between Winter Soldier and Civil War. And sometimes it's my favorite MCU movie of all time. That one goes between Civil War, Winter Soldier, and Infinity War. It's always a battle. But I love that movie. And hearing that this movie, that Brave New World, was supposed to be a bit of a spiritual successor to that, that's why I was excited. That's why I was interested. Because the story of that movie is written so well. And this movie just rehashes it, and not in a particularly fascinating way. And that sucks to me. Now, also, on the story of this movie, it is a weird decision to me. It is very weird to make this not a sequel to any of the Captain America movies, not a sequel to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but a sequel to The Incredible Hulk. The entire story of this movie revolves around the events of The Incredible Hulk from 2008, starring Ed Norton. The entire movie, both two of the main characters from this, obviously Samuel Stearns and Thaddeus Ross, are in that movie, and the story of this movie is entirely dependent on that movie. It's just a weird pick to me. And then also you have the Eternals aspect as well. I don't get why you would try to tie these things together. I don't know why you would try to make this movie dependent on The Incredible Hulk, a movie that did not do well, a movie that is not necessarily enjoyed by a lot of MCU fans. I have no idea why you would not try to make this a solo Captain America story. I don't know why you wouldn't pick up where the Falcon and the Winter Soldier leaves off. I don't know why you divorce yourself from that. Because based on the fact that the story is not related and it even rehashes a lot of the major plot points, it basically makes the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series optional viewing, but it makes the Incredible Hulk required viewing. It was such a weird play to me. I don't understand why you do it. Now, that being said, apart from how the movie is written, I do like the story idea of having the leader, Samuel Stearns, manipulating these things in this conspiracy to get back at Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who has wronged him. I think that is an interesting story, and if it were told well, could be very good, but it's just not told well here. There's so much going on. There's a lot of various things. The entire movie feels a little bit cobbled together, and it just, I don't know. I just feel like it did not, it definitely did not do the story justice. Again, I think that the story has a lot of potential, and I get that you can't, if I understand it, due to the rights and all of the legal things, you can't make an Incredible Hulk movie. I understand that, but you have to find a different way to do it. I don't know if this works with Captain America as the hero. There's very little connection between these three people. And I think in a good movie with a good villain, you have to have a good connection between the heroes and the villains. I mean, again, we look at Captain America Winter Soldier. Obviously, Steve has a deep connection with Bucky Rogers, who is the Winter Soldier, and Sam Jackson has a deep connection to Alexander Pierce, who I think is played by Robert Redford in that movie. There are connections, but in this, the connections only go insofar as Sam Wilson had a few dealings with Thunderbolt Ross during Civil War. Thaddeus Ross was the one who instituted the Sokovia Accords. He's the guy who put Sam in prison in the raft, but that's really it. And they don't even play up that aspect all that much. Like, there is certainly a combative nature between these two, but it's not as combative as you would expect it to be, considering that one of them had the other thrown in prison. It just, I don't know, it just did not do very well. I think, again, the story has so much potential. When we saw the trailers, when we got the story synopsis, I was very excited because the story has potential, and I don't think it lived up to it nearly enough. Now, another issue that I have with this movie and with the story is the adamantium aspect of this. I enjoy the idea that the struggle in this movie is over the use and control of the resource adamantium, which is new. It has been created from the celestial island, the body of Tiamat. I think there is something there, but adamantium, I think when you deal with a quote unquote name brand comic book element like this, I think it has to have a larger impact in the story. And this goes into some of my issues with the design of Captain America Sam Wilson. In this, Sam Wilson's wings have been, upgraded to feature a vibranium alloy gifted by the Wakandans. And, it has the same abilities that Black Panther's vibranium suit does. It absorbs kinetic energy, stores it, and has the ability to release it later in a big ol' explosion. I don't get why you would do that. I don't get why you do that in this movie. It doesn't really make sense to me. The adamantium aspect of this the vibranium aspect of this does not really play a large role in the movie until we get to the very end. He uses it a couple times, but really only in the final scene, or the final fight scene between Captain America and Red Hulk. If you're going to introduce it and not really use it until later, I don't understand why you do that when you have adamantium here. Again, the way that I think that you should do this to have some bit of development, to have some stakes involved in this, is maybe Captain America's wings, they're just regular in the beginning, and they get completely destroyed through a conflict with Sidewinder, through a conflict with the Red Hulk, if you take my idea to have that fight in the middle of the movie. But in any case, the wings get destroyed, and then he's waiting on the upgrade, and in the end of the movie, the upgrade is revealed that they are made using adamantium. Actually have adamantium play a role in the story and play a role in the outcome of the story. As it stands right now, it really, really doesn't. Like, they name drop it a few times. They talk about how it's more effective than vibranium. They talk about how, again, the entire conflict revolves around who is going to have control of this adamantium. But it really plays no effect on the story. It feels to me like the inclusion of adamantium in this is entirely pointless. It's entirely pointless just so they can have a thing which will hopefully drum up more interest. That, to me, is all adamantium does in this. And it's also, frankly, what the inclusion of the Red Hulk does in the trailer. It's just to garner attention and to hopefully get people in the cinema. And it's really, really, really unsatisfying. Again, adamantium is a name brand element in Marvel. Adamantium has connotations with the word. When you say adamantium, you mean things. Like, that's just the way that these comic books are. You say adamantium, you think Wolverine and the X-Men. And they say adamantium here, and they do literally nothing with it. Now, my theory before the movie came out was that they were going to use the adamantium to form bullets, and that is what was going to be used to take down Thunderbolt Ross. Because in the comics, adamantium is not quite as strong as vibranium, but because of that, it's more malleable and easier to use and to form into things. And also it has special properties that negate the effects of gamma radiation. But they don't do anything with that. And my idea, that theory, revolved around the fact that Sidewinder was actually going to have a role in this movie. And boy, was I wrong. Sidewinder is one of those characters who is on screen for like 2 or 3 scenes and doesn't really do anything. He doesn't really do anything. The only time where his presence is actually fairly important and impactful to the story and can't be replaced by some other character is when he goes after Sam Wilson. And again, that's the part where I think maybe it would make sense to have Sam's wings be destroyed. But I don't know. I mean, it was not well done, especially when you have an actor like Giancarlo Esposito, somebody who is one of the best, especially at villains. Giancarlo Esposito is an incredible actor, okay? He plays villains so well. And you have him in this, and you don't even use him. And part of the reason for that is because he wasn't even originally involved in the movie. He wasn't going to be involved in any way. This is a character who was added in reshoots. And on that, I will say, it is very obvious that those scenes were reshoots. It's very, very obvious. And to me, that sucks. Giancarlo Esposito, again, a tremendous actor who could have had an outstanding role in this movie. Could have been outstanding. I mean, you could have made him the quote unquote main villain here. Have him be controlled by by the leader in some capacity and make him actually important to the story. But it's just not. He's just not. Like, he's there in the beginning and then he attacks Sam Wilson, and then they go and talk to him and find out some stuff later on. But it's like, this is a useless character to have here. This is a useless character. And again, it makes me so mad, because if it were like a different actor, then maybe I wouldn't care quite so much. But because it's Giancarlo Esposito, again, tremendous actor, tremendous name brand value, and you just don't use him at all. And the crazy part is, they don't even like use any of the Sidewinder character aspects. Like, they don't do anything with the Serpent Society. They don't do anything, you know, giving him abilities or making anything interesting. He's just there as a character. They don't even like have hints to the Serpent Society. It's completely devoid of everything, which again is very confusing to me, because when it was announced that Giancarlo was going to be in this movie, they were at, I want to say it was CCXP in Mexico City, but I could be wrong about that. This was a long time ago. But when they announced who he was playing, he had this big announcement where he screamed that he would be playing Sidewinder, the leader of the Serpent Society. And again, it has just no impact. It makes me so irritated. Again, I just think the writing across the board on this is not good. And again, I wanted to like this movie. I really, really wanted to. I really did. I came into this with the highest of hopes. I had heard, you know, people who got early previews saying that it wasn't good, or saying things about the movie, and I just pushed those away. I tried to not think about those at all. I tried as much as possible to go into this with a blank slate so that I could feel just what I felt, which was excitement. And I was incredibly, incredibly let down. I was very let down. Oh, and we haven't even talked about the visual effects here, which were not good. I mean, let's just take the Red Hulk, for example. When he's standing by himself, when he's just there on screen and not doing anything, I think he looks fairly decent. You know, I think he looks all right. It looks okay. But when he interacts with things, it looks so bad. Like, for example, there is a scene towards the end. This is the beginning of the conflict with him and Sam Wilson, and he, you know, comes out from behind the podium and grabs a pillar and uses it as a weapon. His hand against the pillar looks so terrible. And then when he's actually fighting Sam Wilson, you know, one of the upgrades that comes with his wings is the ability to throw these blades, kind of like, oh man, is it Angel from X-Men? I'm not sure. I think that's the character who does that, but I can't quite recall. But he throws blades out, and when the blades, quote unquote, hit the Red Hulk, they look atrocious. And this movie was allegedly made with a budget of only $180 million, which is not a lot as far as like superhero blockbusters go. But if that's the case, if you know that you don't have an amazing budget, why do you even bother having the, you know, final ultimate moment of the movie be this special effects extravaganza? It just, I don't know. It feels like such a missed opportunity to me. It feels like such a missed opportunity. I really like Sam Wilson. I liked him in Winter Soldier. I liked him in Falcon in the Winter Soldier. I wish that he could have had a better movie. It failed in a lot of ways. That being said, though, it is fun. It's a popcorn flick, you know. I mean, it's not you know, an incredible movie, but it's definitely enjoyable to watch. And so I don't know. It was a little disheartening. Especially considering how much I love just the character of Captain America. I love the Shield. It kind of sucked to be let down a little bit. But why don't you guys let me know down below what you thought of this movie? Do you agree with me that it was subpar? Or do you enjoy it? That's also possible too. Everybody has different opinions, and I know that there are some people who have said that it's very great. I haven't met any personally, but on the internet I hear rumblings of people saying that it's good. In any case, let me know down below what your thoughts are on this, and if you're excited to see Captain America Sam Wilson in the future. Make sure that you subscribe down below for more nerd content and commentary. Hit the notifications bell so you never miss another episode. And let's see, next video on Thursday, I'm going to be taking a look at the new Captain America Sam Wilson Marvel Comics series. I know that originally on this episode, I was going to take a look at John Wick, and on the Thursday episode, I was going to be looking at Nightwing. But that was because I hadn't expected to be able to go see the movie in the theaters, but I was. So here we are now. So Sam Wilson, Captain America, is going to be next Thursday. The Tuesday after that, I'll be taking a look at John Wick, and then that Thursday is when I'll be taking a look at Nightwing. Make sure that you stick around for all of those, and I will see you guys in 2 days.